Welcome to the Cycle Starters podcast. I'm your host, Heather Rebecca Wilson, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Yvonne Irene Ulloa, an intuitive and spiritual astrologer with 15 years of dedicated practice. Yvonne brings a fascinating perspective as a Taurus Sun, Pisces Moon, and Sagittarius Rising, combining grounded stability, emotional depth, and expansive vision in her astrological work. What makes Yvonne's journey particularly compelling is how she's broken cycles in her family. Coming from a Latino immigrant family, she initially followed the path of the perfect immigrant daughter, completing college, earning a master's degree, and working as a school counselor. But something was missing, which led her to dive deeper into her own healing journey. Today, Yvonne specializes in various aspects of astrology, including timing, astrocartography, compatibility, and love relationships. She's the first in her family to complete college, pursue a master's degree, and now run her own business, truly embodying what it means to be a cycle starter. In this episode, we'll explore Yvonne's ancestral healing journey, how she broke free from expectations to follow her authentic path, and how astrology serves as a tool for transformation and self-discovery. So before we get into today's episode, I do have a favor to ask. If you are enjoying the content that we are creating here on the Cycle Starters podcast, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. It really helps the algorithm get our episodes in front of more viewers. So thank you in advance for that. I really appreciate your support. And now, without any further delay, let's welcome Yvonne to the show. Hey, sis, how are you?
Hey, I'm so excited to be here and get to chat with you.
I am so excited that you are here. It's very hot where I'm at, so you'll have to forgive me as I dab the sweat off my face and hydrate with some ice water here. I'm really happy to see you. Thanks for saying yes to being on the show. How are you doing where you are? What's the weather like there? It looks like you're wearing long sleeves.
So, I'm also in California, but it's a little cooler over here in the Bay Area. We did have some 90-degree plus days that were intense last week, and fortunately, it's dropped down to the 70s. So, it's feeling nicer.
Okay, good. Good. Awesome. All right. Well, so let's just dive into your ancestral background. What can you share with us about your ancestry?
So, both of my parents, they are immigrants. They both decided to come to the United States from their separate home countries. So, my mom is from Mexico and my dad is from Honduras in Central America. So, they both made their journeys. My mom, when she was 31, to the US by herself, and my dad came to the US by himself around age 28. So it was quite an experience growing up in a household where both my parents were Latino. We spoke Spanish. We would go and we visit family in Mexico and in Honduras as well. So we would get the chance to do that during summer vacations, mainly when I was young and in school. And it was such a different experience to get to see what life is like there. And as I've gotten older, to have conversations with my parents around why they made the decision to immigrate and move, primarily so myself and my brother could have more opportunities here in the United States. In Mexico and Honduras, schooling is a little bit different where there's not public education. You need to pay for it. And you also need to pay for transportation, for uniforms. There's not as many opportunities. And especially for women, a lot of times the paths are more that traditional path of, you get older, you wait for someone who wants to marry you, and then you go off and you leave the family home and start your own family. So I'm so grateful that they made the decision to leave their homelands and, experience some of the discomfort of settling into a new area just so my brother and I could have more opportunities.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. And my mom, too, came from the Philippines. So I've got that immigrant story in my body and nervous system as well. I've done quite a bit of work on all of the energetics that come with that experience, but it's ongoing. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So I'm so curious, when did this concept of ancestral healing enter your consciousness insofar as when did you realize, oh, things can be passed down from generation to generation, but also I have the power to shift these patterns and cycles. So tell me a little bit about all of this.
So the first time that it came to the forefront was when I was in my master's program. I did a master's in counseling program where I specialized in marriage and family therapy. And one of the classes that we were required to take was around culture and how to be culturally competent counselors. And it very briefly touched on the idea of intergenerational trauma, but we didn't really get the chance to really sink our teeth into the subject matter. But I had heard about it, was curious, but obviously being in a really intensive program, I didn't really have much chance to explore the things that I wanted to. And once I decided that I wanted to work on my own healing journey, it came back really beautifully inside of a womb healing session. And the woman who was guiding it had a visualization where she had us envision our mother and how our mother puts her hand on our back. And the hand is supposed to be at the center. But for me, it was on the right side of my back. And then my mother, like me, she's a fair skinned Latina as well. So I saw the fair skinned hand. I knew that was my mom. And then I saw a darker hand, a brown hand with vitiligo that I immediately recognized as my father's hand. And as she's having us, zoom back in, she says to look at your mother and then look at your mother's back. And there are women from the ancestry who are right there behind her. And I saw that with my father's hand and how on his back it was my grandmother and then his great grandmothers and so forth. And it was a really beautiful experience because that was the first time I really had the opportunity to understand how much we carry as women inside of our womb space. And it just blew my mind. I didn't realize how much trauma we do carry, especially when you consider the fact that when our grandmother is pregnant with our mother, she carries the essence of our grandmother in her eggs. So it's just so wild when we think about that and how much of that impacts us. And it's so beautiful when you really get the opportunity to explore that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that this is still not mainstream information, right? That like when your grandmother is pregnant with your mom, those eggs that will eventually become you are also in that fetus, right? Like you're absorbing the energy of your grandmother's experiences before you're even born. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. Well, so let's talk a little bit about the patterns that you feel like you're breaking. What can you share with us about that?
So I know a lot about my family history. And what was so interesting for me in that womb healing experience was when my father's hand came on because we did a sharing at the end and no one else had that experience. And I realized that on my mother's side of the family, my grandmother, she raised my mom, my uncle, and my two aunts on her own as a single mother when my grandfather passed away. So she was breaking cycles herself by living out life as a single mother. My Tia Yolanda, she was the first one to be educated, and she is now a nun and lives in Rome. My uncle and my mother, they both made the decision to immigrate to the United States. My uncle to Texas, my mom to California. And then my other aunt, she decided she wanted to stay in Mexico and wanted to raise a family. So it was really beautiful to hear how the people on that side, they really had the chance to do what they wanted and follow their own path versus my father's side of the family where everything is more traditional. My grandmother was that traditional matriarch of the family, really involved heavily with the child rearing, not really getting the chance to do too much. She would do sewing work on the side, but all of that money would go to my grandfather and he would be the one who managed it, took care of it, and made decisions on how it was used. And a lot of the women in my father's side of the family, they also follow that same path as my grandmother, where they went and had children, and their daughters also fell on that same path as well. And same with my uncle's daughters. So I was actually the first one to make the decision that I wanted to get educated. I didn't want to become a mom as soon as I graduated from high school. I really wanted to study, to build my own career, and really make something of myself. I wanted to have my own money, have my own freedom, have my own experiences. So when I did get to that place where I was like, hey, I'm ready to settle down and start that path, I wouldn't look back on it with regret.
Thank you for sharing all of that. Well, we got to start talking some astrology because you're an astrologer. And I was saying to you before we started recording that this is the first time that I'm interviewing somebody who is also fluent in this language. So I'm really excited for this aspect of our conversation. But I guess I want to start with, when did your interest in astrology begin? Tell me a little bit about the path getting to where you are now.
So, astrology for me, it's always been such a deep interest since I was a child. I grew up with Spanish language news and television always running across the house and also in the houses of other people we went to as well. And one of my favorite things was this astrologer named Walter Mercado, and he would come on and do the daily astrological reports. And I thought it was so cool. And the moment that I found out, okay, being born May 8th makes me a Taurus, I would just sit there and wait and be like, okay, Walter, let me know what's happening for Tauruses. And that was how I got into it. And when I was younger, I just knew I was a Taurus sun. I didn't realize that astrology was such a big, wide world and that we're more than our sun signs. That didn't come for me until after I graduated from high school in 2009. I got my first computer. Our computer had internet access, and I was just able to go off and study and check out books from the library and learn on my own. And it was just such a beautiful journey to get to reconnect back with something that I loved during childhood because I grew up in a Latino Catholic household, and that wasn't really something that a lot of folks supported or cared for. It may have been on the news and people may have, sat down to watch it, but I don't think it was anything that folks were sitting down and thinking, oh, I would love for my child to be an astrologer like that on
Right.
television and doing astrological reports. It was that whole traditional thing that you hear in immigrant households where it's like, I want you to be a doctor, I want you to be a lawyer, I want you to be something really stable that can help you take care of yourself. And at the time, astrologer just didn't seem like a possibility.
Well, so when did you start actively studying and pursuing this as a part of your healing practice? Like, when did you get serious about this?
So I was always studying on my own and learning since 2009. I didn't really start to apply it more to myself until I graduated from my master's program. I needed something fun for myself because after being in that program, it was so intensive. I wanted to do things that were fun for me and I would have disposable income after, graduate school. So that's when I really got more into it for myself. And I noticed that I was getting more excited talking about astrology than I was talking about my counseling job. And I would put things that are whiteboard at work. I'd be like, what's your sun sign? I wanted to know what were the sun signs of the people I worked with. And then I got more daring and I would put like, what's your moon sign? What's your rising? And I would try to have conversations with folks and they just weren't interested. So I just kept it as something for myself, especially because I had a really long commute. I had a 4-hour round trip commute every single day from my house to
Gosh.
my job. Astrology became the thing that kept me sane and really allowed me the opportunity to just let my mind go somewhere else and not be so focused on how miserable I was on that long commute. And it was just so much fun to get the chance to learn more about myself and see all of the different facets of my chart and how they make me who I am.
Amazing. All right. Well, so we met through the VEDA community. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with this, this is Layla Martin's program. It's a certification program for sex, love, and relationship coaches. And so I was in the 2017 cohort, and you're in the current cohort, correct? Or last year's?
I was a part of the 2022 cohort, but I'm
Oh,
still
okay.
working through my certification requirements.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Of course. Yeah, totally understandable. So I'm curious, how is all of the VEDA methodology, all the information that you receive, how is that getting woven into your astrology practice?
So it's kind of like a full circle moment because, like I had mentioned earlier, I was in a master's in counseling program, and I was specializing in marriage, family, and child counseling. And my original goal after graduation was I wanted to go into sex therapy, but I couldn't find a program that really aligned with me. Everything was so cold, so clinical. And I wanted something that was more embodied, that was more holistic. And that was always the way that I wanted to approach therapy as well, through a more holistic and alternative lens. And for me, I always wanted to combine astrology in there because I truly feel that you get so seen through the chart and you can't really hide. And when your astrologer knows where your shadows are, they know kind of how to guide you, how to lead you, and help you alchemize those shadows and really cut through the BS that sometimes happens in the world of therapy. Where if you know how to maneuver and work your therapist, you can kind of avoid doing the actual work if you're a good smooth talker. But unfortunately, in my program, a lot of the people were more interested in the clinical talking therapy side of things, more CBT focused. So, a lot of evidence based practices. And for me, I was interested in studying yoga. I wanted to learn more about breath work, meditation. I was interested in Reiki, all of these alternative modalities, and especially astrology. And when I brought that up to my peers, it was something that people were like, we're here to do clinical therapy work, you know? But put that aside. That's not what we're doing here. So it was really disheartening. And that's one of the reasons why I went into school counseling, because I liked how when you're working with children in school settings, they don't know how to really verbalize themselves. So you get more opportunity to be creative. But I started to miss working with adults. And when I found Layla Martin's program, VEDA, I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I wished had existed when I graduated from my master's program in spring of 2018. Of course, I'm going to get into this. And it was a big facet that led me to getting more interested in astrology from the perspective of love and relationships, because I was always interested through it from the lens of career and purpose, because I always felt lost myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't an area that was much of interest for me. But then doing that work, it got me into, okay, let's figure out how to work our birth charts for healing around love, around relationships, around sex. I love synastry. You know, when you're looking at the compatibility of two
Mm-hmm.
charts, I think it's so beautiful and compatible to doing couples work, because you see how both charts interact and you can actually understand this is why we don't really communicate the same way, because maybe one person is a fire Mars like myself and the other person is a water Mars. So the fiery person, you know, they're coming at it more direct, more blunt, and the water Mars, or the water Mars person, you know, they're a little more sensitive and that may not work the best for them. So it's really cool when you understand that and you can really help people navigate relationships.
I totally agree. I mean, I really enjoyed looking at the synastry chart for me and my husband. You could totally see why we work. It was totally in front of me in black and white. I mean, I think I relate to the art and science of astrology in a similar way, insofar as it's such an empowering tool. It's a language and a framework for understanding yourself and empowering yourself as an energetic being. And I'm always looking at it now, you know, through an ancestral healing lens and expanding that into galactic astrology and looking at our star ancestors, right? Where the different star systems influencing us on a soul level. I love astrology. I love it. So I'm just so happy you're here and we can talk more about it. We can get into it. So some of you may not know that I have a monthly membership. Every month we have a new moon pleasure practice and dance party. And Yvonne, I hope one day next year you will be a guest teacher in the membership. I would love to have you. I hope you're open to that.
God, yes, that sounds so fun. I would love to come on there and do any kind of guest session.
Amazing. All right. So we will talk more about that offline. So now I want to talk about your sun, moon, and rising signs. I know I read them aloud in the intro, but can you share them with us?
Yeah, so I'm a Taurus Sun, Pisces Moon, and Sagittarius Rising. I always tell people the Sagittarius rising kind of tricks folks sometimes because I love to be adventurous. I love to travel, but I also really love my comfort. My Taurus sun loves its
Yeah,
comfort. It needs
of
the
course.
stability and that Pisces moon. I need that safety for sure.
Well, let's talk more about this Pisces moon. So, all of the water signs I find are extremely psychic and intuitive. Pisces is mutable water, so it's changeable and it's adaptable. And each of the signs, you know this, is a spectrum of psycho-spiritual energy, and they have like a high expression and a low expression. And so the moon in Western tropical astrology, in my practice, really represents your emotions, your emotional core, your emotional inheritance, including ancestral wounds, but also the gifts that your ancestors have given you. What house is this moon in, by the way?
Mine is in the fourth house, and my moon activates pretty much my entire chart. So
Wow.
anytime something hits my moon, my whole chart lights up and feels it. I went through a really difficult Saturn on my moon transit last year. Throughout the whole year, I don't think folks are aware of that. When Saturn is transiting your moon, you feel that for a year because of the time that it takes to lead up to the moon sign, the time it spends on it, the time it takes for it to get off, and then the retrograde.
Oh my goodness. Okay. You've just given me some inspiration to see when Saturn was on my my natal moon. I'll have to look at that. Okay. Well, so your moon is in the fourth house of home, ancestry, and roots. So, of course, you're a cycle breaker. I love this. So, the high expression of Pisces for me is that multidimensionality. It's the artistry, it's dreamy, it's romantic, it's creative, it's very close to the veil. Arguably the closest to the veil of all of the signs and maybe even the water signs. And you feel everything. It's like you have love for all things, for the earth, for the plants, for the animals, for, all beings. And then the lower expression of Pisces is victimhood, giving away your power. And then also, I think part of that Pisces growth journey is learning how to set really good energetic boundaries. Because when I tune into mutable water, it's water without a container, it's water that seeps into everything it touches. So I'm so curious, how do you care for your emotional life with this very sensitive, dreamy Pisces moon?
So for me, the first step was getting honest with myself about how I see the shadows of Pisces showing up for me.
Hmm.
And one of the biggest ones that I notice is Pisces is connected to that facet of escapism.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's because, we feel so much and it feels so difficult because we're such sensitive beings. And we're kind of the ones who we see that wounded bird and we want to take it home with us. We want to nurture it. We want to take care of it. And we want to then set it free or keep it with us. But we can't run around and pick up every single wounded bird and nurture them back to health. That's not our purpose. So it's really important to find out, how am I trying to escape life? And for me, when I was going through very difficult times, it was binge watching. I feel like that's been one that I hear so much from folks with all of these streaming platforms. We can get things right now. And if I'm watching something and I watch more than one episode, I have to really think to myself, am I doing this to avoid something? Am I doing this to escape? Or am I just here because I genuinely want to have fun and want to watch this? And that really helps me get clear as to why I'm doing it. And if I'm doing it for the first purpose of avoidance, of escapism, then I really try to get to the root and get really honest with myself, because I think that's where we always have to start first. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be able to voice it out loud to yourself. And that really helps keep me off that track, because obviously, again, that piece with the escapism. That's why it's so easy for folks with strong Pisces, 12th house, or Neptune energy to fall into addictive patterns
Yes.
or down the path of addiction. So it's something really important to be mindful of. And I try to find ways to really enjoy that lighter energy of Pisces. So for me, being a Pisces moon in the fourth house, I really want to make sure I feel comfortable, safe, grounded in my home, and that I'm really happy with my space. Sometimes just decorating or rearranging the furniture can bring such new energy, and that really does bring a really good vibe, and I do enjoy that. I also love writing. I used to do a lot of creative writing when I was younger and make up stories. So that's a really fun way to tap into that energy or just allowing yourself to really daydream, but not live in a full blown fantasy world that you're avoiding the real world as well at the same time. I feel like it's kind of one of those seesaws that you have to really navigate as a Pisces, just in general, with that energy, because it's so easy for you to go way up and not be able to ground yourself down. That's why I'm so grateful that I'm a Taurus sun because it really does help ground me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. And you just dropped so much wisdom. So, anybody out there listening with the Pisces moon, definitely watch this over and over again because, yeah, the escapism, the avoidance, I think is a big part of that lower expression and the addiction, right? This is also very Neptunian as well. And Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces, as far as I know. So, okay, let's talk about this Sagittarius rising. So, the rising sign changes throughout the day, multiple times a day.
Hmm.
That's why we ask everybody for their birth time. And your rising sign is the vehicle for your divine mission. It's your perception of reality. It's the lens that you see everything through. And it's also the energy that people first pick up on when they meet you. And the sun sign is, for me, how you see yourself, the special sauce that you mix into everything that you do. So you're a sun in Taurus. So we'll get to that in a second. The rising sign is how you really are behaviorally. And I think with such a strong focus on the sun sign in popular astrology or in pop culture, people don't know about the rising sign. And also, those rising sign qualities can be in the shadow, right? And they could be good qualities, but they're just not conscious of how they come across. And so, Sagittarius is mutable fire. So you have some spunk. Fire represents our passion, our intuition, that creative spark, inspiration. And in the highest expression, the spiritual teacher, somebody who is curious about the world, especially people who are not like them. So I associate like diversity with that high expression of Sagittarius. You love adventure, you love exploring, and then the low expression of Sag for me is black and white thinking and being really judgmental. So tell me about your Sagittarius rising life. And also, I have to know, do you have a temper? Because Sag can be fiery.
I do have a temper, but that's also because I'm a Aries Mercury. So for me, it's more
Me too.
something that I've had to learn to really handle and navigate. And I'm really grateful that I used to work with elementary age kids because you can't get angry at a child for not understanding things. And that really did help me with my patience because I was the type where if someone was not picking up on something quickly, like the way that my mind works, I would get angry at them and I would get
Hmm.
frustrated and just really sometimes have like blowouts. So it's really helped to be in those positions where I've really had to stand in my patience and really develop that because I do see that as one of the shadows of that fiery energy where you don't have patience. You want things yesterday. You don't want them right now, you want them yesterday. But with the Sagittarius energy, like I definitely see it show up because I'm quite an optimistic person. Jupiter is my chart ruler. So I do see it in the stance of the optimism. I love learning so much. That's really my jam. I love getting the chance to understand things, synthesize them, and then getting to teach them to others. It's probably why I loved going into the classrooms and doing classroom guidance lessons and teaching social emotional regulation tools to the kids because it was so fun to take these complex mental health terms, practices, and break them down in ways where a kindergartner could understand it, but also into a place where a fifth grader could understand and still like think it was okay and cool.
Amazing. Oh yeah, you're a natural teacher. Awesome. All right. Well, so let's talk about the Taurus sun. So, Taurus is a totally different energy from Pisces and Sag. It's fixed earth. Earth is what we use to build the structures that give us stability and security in our lives. And Taurus is ruled by Venus, the goddess of love, money, and pleasure. So when I tune into this energy, the high expression of Taurus for me is building a legacy and building it at your own speed, whether it's faster than everybody else or slower than everybody else. You're very concerned with quality, building something that's going to last. That is of high quality. And then also, my bonus sun is a Taurus rising. He loves to luxuriate. He loves all of his creature comforts, like this pillow, this blanket, my ice cream, this drink, all this kind of stuff. My skincare. I mean, not him, but another friend of mine, and there's like a stability, right? It's fixed, right? In the Northern Hemisphere, it's the most stable, solid expression of the springtime. And then the lower expression of Taurus for me is just being so stubborn, so traditional, and being fixed, right? Like nobody's going to make you change your mind about everything. Like you decide, like you change when you decide to change. But also I connect Taurus with like this love of the earth and the body and sensuality. This is where you shine. So this makes sense. You're doing VEDA. That's awesome. Tell me more about this Taurus Sun life.
So when I actually first found out more about the Taurus Sun energy, I was so bummed. I was like, I don't want to be a Taurus because everything that I would see online was memes essentially making fun of the shadow archetypes of Taurus. So
Mm-hmm.
everything I was seeing was you're lazy, you're stubborn, you're so fixed, you'll never budge. And I was like, oh my gosh, those sound like horrible qualities. I don't want to be associated with that. And it wasn't until I got older that I really started to appreciate more of that Taurus energy, especially once I was able to really find ways to channel and hone in on that energy. Like in VEDA, we're doing the pleasure practices, we're getting the opportunity to coach our peers and get coached back on those themes. And also, I was exactly like the person that you shared. I'm all about my skincare routines. I'm that one person where when I go shopping, I can't help but touch the fabrics, and that's really important to me. I really want to make sure that I have the most luxurious experience that I can have. I love connecting and grounding with nature. That's so supportive for me. And also, I'm exactly that Taurus energy of, building a slow legacy and building something that's built to last. And I do see those qualities now. And one of the most interesting things that I've noticed is when we're children, a lot of times, unless you're born on a new moon, because that means that your sun and your moon are in the same sign, but most children seem to really show up more so in their moon sign. And then as we get older, we tend to grow more into our sun sign. I definitely feel like that was my experience as a kid for sure. I see that where I was more in that Pisces sun energy. And as I got older, then I started to really get into that Taurus sun energy. And I'm really grateful for it because it does help ground that Pisces moon. So I'm not always
Yeah.
just, floating off. I feel I'm more like, someone holding a balloon. And I know I'm tethered to that person who's holding the balloon instead of just being like, well, the balloon is out and it's going somewhere out there in the ethers and it's lost. So I am grateful for that Taurus energy.
Well, speaking of embodying your moon sign as a child and then moving into your sun sign more as an adult, I'm curious, how did your parents react to you pursuing astrology?
So when I first told my parents about how I was going to leave behind the realm of school counseling, they were really supportive. They're a little different, I think, than other Latino parents. My dad is a Aries sun. My mom is an Aquarius sun. They both, made the decisions to immigrate. So they were more open minded. My dad was even like, let me help you out in any way that I can. They just didn't know what I wanted to do. And I didn't know either at the time. It kind of was always like, astrology is my party trick. I don't think I could make it a thing. Because in my mind, I was like, well, I can't be like Walter Mercado. I'm not going to put myself out there on TV and, do daily reports all the time. So when I really made that decision and I showed them like, hey, here's how I can actually do this and be successful, I think that's what made them feel really safe. And interestingly enough, I think it's also healing for them because both my parents are Pisces moons. And one of my things that I have noticed is if there's a repeating sign that you share with someone in your family, especially a parent and then child, you're usually here to break that cycle. And for my parents, they never felt their emotions. They grew up with that whole, if you cry, I'll give you something to cry about. Like, you have no reason to cry. Or you would be physically disciplined harshly if you cried. And I grew up with that as well, but I was able to really express myself. And I think it was that stubborn Taurus Sun energy too that came into play and was like, no, I have feelings and I feel them and I need to feel them inside my body. And interestingly enough, I have a younger brother and he's not a Pisces moon. He's an Aquarius moon.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. And that really interesting piece of information about if there's a repeating moon sign, then you're definitely a cycle breaker. Yeah, that is very cool. All right. Well, so I think we should talk some galactic astrology now. Are you ready, my friend?
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm not very familiar with this, so I'm always eager to learn. That Sag rising interest is peaked.
All right. Well, so thank you for being open to this. So I got into galactic astrology in the springtime of this year because I had a very activating Venus star point experience in March. So my natal sun is at 2 degrees Aries, and that's where the Venus star point was. And so I had a whole reset around my self-worth and how I was not valuing my expertise enough. I realized I was not being my biggest cheerleader. And so after about 30 days, and I'm still doing this, of just really recoding my identity, this came in. And with Jupiter moving into Cancer, it really felt like, Heather, you are expanding your sense of family right now. Jupiter makes everything bigger. Cancer is the sign of the family, the mother too. So this came into my field and it was just like a huge green light. It just completely lit me up. When I looked at my own galactic placements, I was like, oh my God, this is it. So galactic astrology is just the study of fixed stars, super cosmic points, and the aspects they make to your own natal planets. So up until I really sunk my teeth into this, I was really only concerned with my blood ancestors, right? My clients' blood ancestors, and then ancestors of time, ancestors of place. But this is really about your star ancestry and where your soul has been over many, many lives on Earth, but also off planet. So I looked at your chart, girl. So, my dear, your chart is buzzing with rare and potent connections that tell me that you are here on a big mission. And I really mean big in the cosmic sense. So, you have very strong activations to the galactic center. You bridge the wisdom of the stars with life here on Earth, guiding others to remember their soul's origins. Your words and presence aren't just inspiring, they're activating people, and you're designed to plant seeds of transformation through conversation and leadership and sharing your truth. And I'm actually going to pull up your chart in front of me so that I can really dive into this with you. You're very multi-galactic. So in terms of where you have soul connections to, you have soul connections to Lyra, specifically Sheliak and the Lyra Ring Nebula. I see connections to Cetus, so Tau Ceti specifically. That's a star within the Cetus constellation. You got Lyra all over here. Also, I see Spica or Spica. This is a star in the Virgo constellation that's appearing multiple times. I'm also seeing some Orion connections. Also Cassiopeia. I mean, there's tons of stuff here. So this all just shows me that you are a very old soul. Your soul has been around for millions of years. I would love to go deeper into this with you because I can see this constellations that you have soul connections to, but like I can't tell the quality of that connection until we actually go into a reading, because I don't know, did you have a life there? Did you collaborate with beings from that certain star system? Did you visit that star system on a mission, right? We'd have to go deeper, but bottom line is you are extremely multi-galactic. and you are here on a mission. So how is this landing for you?
Wow, that is so awesome and so cool to hear. It's so funny because as you were sharing, I literally thought to an incident from last week where I was sharing around the actual astrology around 8-8 and how what we hear is not actual astrology, and how that alignment really does not occur the way that it's regurgitated every year, where they say that Sirius, Orion, and the sun all meet in the sign of Leo in the same degree, and that's not true. And I had one person who reached out to me and was like, "Oh my gosh, I did not know that." And I could feel how she was feeling really bad and putting herself down for it. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to send her a voice note. So I sent her a voice note and I told her, we're all learning. It's hard to know when the information is not out there. So don't beat yourself up. You are just trying to do good and spread what you do and, put that out there. And then I was telling her about that. And she sent me a message back and she's like, "Oh my gosh, do you have a podcast? Because your voice just activated me and I would be your number one listener if you had a podcast." And I remember messaging her back. I was like, "I don't have a podcast. I've been on other people's, but it's not something on my radar right now."
Oh my gosh. Yvonne, yes, you have a great voice. You have an awesome voice, and it's part of your soul mission, it sounds like, to be speaking truth, right? I would love to go deeper into this with you. There's so much here, but just a lot of Lyra. A lot of Lyra is all over here, and that's supposed to be where humanoids came from, is from the Lyra constellation. So those are our most ancient ancestors. So, oh my God, this was so fun to look at your chart. I, again, would love to go deeper into this with you and just thank you for allowing me to look at your chart because it's really intimate. Share your chart with somebody else. I mean, because it's all there, you know?
Yeah.
You can't hide. Well, thank you for being open to this. I want to know from you now, what are you working on that you're excited about that you can share with us?
So I have a wait list right now. It's something I've been wanting to do for the longest time and have had many people ask me when this is coming out. So I'm working on it behind the scenes. I'm going to start having astrology classes, and
Nice.
I have one right now that's available for folks to join the wait list. It's called Astrology Unlocked and it's birth charts for beginner. And I'm going to teach you how to access your birth chart for, self growth, to look at other people's charts in your lives. And if you want to be an astrologer, it's going to be a wonderful foundational course because I think you really need to have the basics nailed down. And unfortunately, there are some folks who are out there teaching who are not in integrity. So that's why I really wanted to teach and put myself in that role for folks because that's the one thing I always hear on my readings. People are always telling me, it's like you see my soul. I've had other readings with other folks and I've never felt as seen as I felt with you. So I really want to be able to share that with others so they can go out there because I'm not going to be able to read for everyone in the world. So if I can at least be out there and a part of that mission of creating wonderful soul aligned astrologers who are elevated in the way that they do their readings, they empower clients, that would mean the absolute world to me. So if you're interested in that, join the wait list. I also have a wonderful free masterclass that's available. It's called Activate Your Creative Power, and it's about using your sun, your moon, and your rising signs to help you move from dreaming to doing. So it's really perfect and in alignment for folks who have, a creative vision that maybe they've been feeling like they couldn't execute, and how to use your soul blueprint to really rev up that engine and get you going.
I love that you're teaching astrology classes. And I think this is so in alignment with your soul mission, right? To empower other people with this information so that they can read their own chart. I mean, I look at my chart all the time and I see new things every time I look at it, which is amazing. I didn't realize that I had a yod in my chart until a few years ago. And I had already been studying astrology for a few years. It's so crazy. Anyway, that's another conversation and I'd love to have you back again. We can chat more. That would be really fun. So, If people want to learn more about you, get on the wait list, where should they go?
So I have everything linked on my Instagram. My Instagram is at I am Yvonne Irene. And my website is also www.iamyvonneirene.com. I have astrology blogs on there. I put one out every Wednesday. I have information about my astrology readings on my website. And Instagram is where I'm always hanging out and posting and creating content. And that's the best place to find me.
Well, so, my dear, I have one last question for you, and I ask this of all of my guests. What are the new cycles that you're starting in your lineage in this lifetime?
I feel like one that's really coming in and has been really integrating so far is living more in line with my cycle. So many of the women in my family and in my lineage have been working really hard in that masculine energy to make ends meet. I come from family and generations where there's been poverty. So it's been so beautiful to really be able to work and sync with my own cycle, my own energy, and be able to really honor it and not be stuck in that feast famine mode or in that go, 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 go masculine hardcore energy that we're so pressured to be in this day and age. And I'm just so grateful because I'm definitely want to pass that on to, my cousin's daughter, to my own children, so they know that they can still enjoy life and still have meaning and live in line with their cycles, especially as women.
Beautiful. I love that. Yvonne, thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been so lovely to be in dialogue with you. This is great. I'm very glad that we met.
Me too. It was so much fun. And I loved getting to hear all about the galactic astrology. I thought that was so fascinating. And it blew my mind getting to hear you and witness you sharing your wisdom and getting the opportunity to soak it all in. It was such an honor.
Honor and the pleasure is all mine. I live for this stuff. Yeah, this has just been wonderful. So, thank you everybody. We will see you next time on the Cycle Starters podcast. Thanks, Yvonne. Bye everybody.